All right, so welcome everybody to tonight's Power of Our Story episode. And tonight we have with us Chad Bruckner. He is the president of Intercounty Investigations and Solutions, from providing Pennsylvania municipalities with investigative solutions to reduce liability, increase efficiency, and maximize human capital. Chad is a professional speaker and a with Law Enforcement Action Partnership to advocate for criminal justice reform in the following areas, including leadership and culture, mental health and resiliency, bail reform, and narcotics. Chad served 13 years in law enforcement in multiple roles, such as a detective, undercover officer, and a patrol leader. He's also served 8 years in the United States Army Infantry and led over 300 combat missions in Iraq. Chad is an entrepreneur, owning multiple businesses, and really enjoys connecting with first responders and veterans. He enjoys training, mentoring, coaching other police officers as well. So Chad developed a wellness program and presents it at police departments and police academies throughout Pennsylvania. He is also a speaker and presents on issues such as leadership, mental health, trauma, and resiliency. Chad co-founded and is the bro host of the Breaking Badge show, which I know many of you are familiar with, if not already had been on as a guest. And the show is dedicated to helping first responders survive and thrive on the job and in their personal lives, as well as assisting with transition from public service to the life after. Chad published a book and is always been fond of writing. A certified mental health peer advocate and volunteers on a critical incident stress management team. He is guided by his faith and core values. Chad is dedicated his life to serving others, and his primary purpose in life is to connect with people in a meaningful way and help survive, thrive, and conquer their dreams. Chad staunchly believes in a 360-degree approach to life. Having balance in our professional and personal lives always allows us to truly flourish. From an educational perspective, Chad has a master's degree in digital forensics and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and is proven to be an underachiever. Just kidding. Chad is married to the love of his life with his 3 children. He loves his Philly sports and his music from Billy Joel and the Backstreet Boys, which we'll have to discuss a little bit later, and his movie buff. So, Chad, thank you for being with us. After all that, is there anything left for you to say?
Show's over. Good night, folks. No, dude, thank you. Man, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's just good to be here with you guys. It really is. I have the opportunity to talk to so many of kind of individually and build relationships, and it's completely different when you're part of this tribe in one setting like we are now. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's start by you telling your story.
Yes.
Don't leave anything out. Don't, as we would say in our resiliency classes, no vanilla. Get down to the nitty gritty, and let's see what we got and go from there.
Wow. All right. I'm excited about this. So I took some notes because I was writing some things down. I want to keep this conversational because I was talking with Dave earlier, and I really love the whole. I never sat at a couch and did this, so this is really cool for me. So I'm Chad. I'm 41. I'll be 42 next month, and I live in Philadelphia. I was born and raised in the Philly area, and went in the Army at 17 after high school. I grew up outside of Philadelphia. We didn't have a lot of money. I didn't do good in school. I didn't apply myself. So the only option really was to go in the military or some trade or something like that. My family, my dad served, my uncle served, my little brother followed my footsteps. So it wasn't like it was out of the ordinary to serve. Went in the Army for 4 years. 9/11 went in 98 to 02. So 9/11 happened in 01, and that changed everything. So my 4-year enlistment went to 8 years. So I ended up getting out at 25, and then went from that into law enforcement pretty quickly, about a year and a half. Through that time, that year and a half break is when I met my wife, Kristen, and she's a school teacher, first grade. And that really just kind of helped transcend my life and take me to the next level. It wasn't that I would say I was disorganized. I was immature. I was disorganized. I kind of felt like I was floating around a little bit, like I was very dedicated to what I was doing in the military, got out. But, I remember getting out after 8 years, and some of my friends now 25 were married. Some had a kid. I mean, they had careers. I was living at home with my parents. I had no car, no job. no girlfriend, no kids. I mean, I was like an anonymous person. So that transition to catch up to my peers was a little challenging. I think going into law enforcement really helped that, because it was just, bam, at 27, I got hired and going on the job and doing that. So that was great. I'm highly empathetic, always been very touchy feely and things like that. It's kind of my personality. So I always kind of felt like a little, I just always felt like a little bit of fish out of water in the military and law enforcement. I was good at my job, I could do it, but the level of reflection and introspection and the deep thinking I like to do, and kind of always pondering, the existence and this existential search to find meaning, and this all these things of just, you guys all know, being in these kind of spaces is you got to find those people, and if you don't find them, you kind of feel a little alone out there. So for me, it was just filling my cup of serving other humans and doing things for the greater good. But I knew even early, I mean, I remember being a teenager. I know this is kind of getting off topic, but I remember being a teenager thinking about what it would be like to get married and have family and do all these things. Like, this is how my mind always has gone as far as searching for things. So just trying to back up here. So in 2019, so I'll say 2017, 2018, I started having some mental health. The mental health started to decline, and started with the nightmares. I never really dealt with some of the Iraq. I know I never dealt with any of the stuff that happened in Iraq. Some of the fallout, some of the kind of buried my head in the sand. I don't need medication. I'll just take a knee, drink water. I'll be fine. That mentality definitely was pervasive with me, and it's really, it was kind of just what I knew from the military and law enforcement. I think we're all in that position where we're in environments where you got to adapt or die, and that's kind of what I did. So in 2018, I started to have some declining mental health. It definitely affected my personal life, affected my career. I actually probably started 2017, because I remember we had our third kid, Marcus, my crazy's youngest, and I was very hands-on my first two kids, and I was a detective in 2017, totally burned out, definitely depressed, was self-medicating, not with alcohol, not sleeping through the night. And we just had our third, and my wife was a teacher staying at home. And even though she did that for the first two kids, I still would wake up and help her do things. The third kid, when Marcus came along in 2017, I wanted nothing to do with it. Antisocial behavior, withdrawing, didn't want to wake up in the middle of the night, told my wife, you're staying home. This is like what you do, babe. I got to wake up in the morning, go to work. You're going to wake up now and take care of the baby. Like, that's your job. I have my job. I was very like fact and lot, kind of direct and cold there in that year. Just caused some issues in my marriage. And looking back on it, clearly I was going through some challenges. So kind of gritted my teeth, didn't really think that there was anything going on wrong. These are only what I'm kind of pointing at now are things I, in retrospect, looking back, but at that time I didn't see it. 2019, it just got worse. It got declining. We did a sergeant's test, promotional test. Everybody was, not everybody, but a lot of peers and colleagues assumed, hey, Chad, this is your time, blah, blah, blah. So in my mind, in my head, yeah, I was going to come out. I was going to get sergeant. This was the next phase for me, which is funny because we all know now when you're dealing with these things that it's, what is that, John Lennon, life's what happens when you're busy making plans. So those mental health issues were coming out now at a time where, I wasn't ready. So I ended up barely passing the sergeant's test. There was some concerns we had in the police department as far as it not being an objective process. We did our due diligence. We filed some right to know requests. We wanted to see the records. We just wanted a little bit more transparency. But what that happened is, that stirred the pot, and that caused some issues. And it caused some issues for me personally. So in June of 2019, I just made an arrest for two people for a drive-by shooting for attempted homicide. And we were working this case for months, and finally made the arrest, dropped them off to prison at 9 o'clock at night or something like that. I come in early the next day, me and my partner, and the lieutenant comes in my office and says, hey, chief wants to see you. I walk up to his office and very directly just says, hey, we're sending you back to patrol. And I remember having a tear come down my cheek because it totally caught me off guard. I was not expecting that. I love being a detective, but much like I told Chris on his show, my identity was wrapped up. I had an unhealthy perception of myself, and there was not as much balance as I would have hoped, or at least I would have thought at that time. Because at that time, I'll be honest, I thought I was a peer advocate. I was on the CISM team. I was kind of the default go-to. Hey, go to Chad. He'll hug you. He'll kiss you. He'll hug you. He'll rub you. Whatever. So in my mind, I thought I was extremely resilient. This is what I do. Blah blah blah. And it was just it's ironic that I needed that lesson. I needed to go through that. So that demotion really set me. It just exasperated what was already going on. It just ripped off the Band-Aid. It was gushing water, basically. Deep depression set in, started drinking even more. I would say probably September, October 2019 was the absolute worst. I was a detective for almost 8 years. So being off randomly in the middle of a workday was just so strange to me. And again, it was part of the process. I didn't know how to respond to that and deal with that. And I'll never forget giving Marcus his iPad. He's 2.5 maybe, and having him sit on the couch and open his apps for him, put his games on. Then I would go out on the porch or the deck for a half hour and just, down 2 beer, 2 double IPAs, 2 10%ers. I was just struggling, man. I was struggling. I was trying to find out who I was. I'm a deep thinker anyway. So this really, really got me, just my brain was on overdrive. It would not stop moving. Waking up in the middle of the night, sweats, and panic attacks, anxiety, irrational thoughts, and illogical fear, and all these things that I just never experienced. So it really segued to like around November 2019 was the suicidal ideation was the worst then. And I remember driving home. I remember going to work, smiley, hey, joke around. Hey, how can I help you? Yeah, absolutely. Come on in. Like we all do, right? We go to work and we put a smile on and we help people. But I remember driving home with this, taking the mask off, thinking about, which part of the highway to drive my car off of. And just a dark time for me. And I remember it was around Thanksgiving, because my wife brought the kids in to visit me for Thanksgiving dinner. And there's actually a picture. I've posted about this before on LinkedIn, so maybe I'll do it again. But there's a picture of me in uniform and they came to visit me, and I have a big smile and I got my arms around my family. But that was really the worst of it. And it was just a reminder of like, we can put these masks on, we can smile, we can fake the funk with the best of them, but doesn't mean that we're good. So kind of for me, the moment was my wife talking to me about my drinking and asking me, she was very concerned, and more just, babe, I know you, and this is not you. That was kind of her message, and her theme was, this is not you. And I was not in a place to receive that information. I remember her asking me, it's 4:30 afternoon. I just got home from work and you're drunk. And I mean, this is almost verbatim. I wish I had the quote, but to this effect, it was, you know what, babe, I'm a fucking cop. And you know what cops do? We arrest bad guys and then we come home and we get fucked up. That's what you married. That's what I am. All right. And it was something like that. And I went to sleep that night. I remember just couldn't sleep. It was weighing on me. I was sitting on my shoulder carrying this. And I woke up the next day with just so much guilt and just feeling, what excuse I made and lack of accountability. I preached that with my kids. We hammered that home. And so I went down, the next morning, apologized to my wife. And I said, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I said that to you. I acted that way. Shame on me. I need to figure this thing out. So I did. It was just a accountability moment of getting into therapy and starting the healing. And, for me, I was always a very social drinker. So the alcohol was not, mine was depression. It was a mental health crisis. And I was using alcohol as a tool to self-medicate. So I didn't really feel like I needed AA or anything. And to this day, I barely drink, but because I'm in a great place, I'm healthy now. But yeah, going through that, I mean, doing different EMDR and TRP with Terry and all these different things. I just immersed myself in it starting in 2019. I mean, when I say I immerse myself so much so that people that I worked with at the police department, I still think, really, because I was talking to them last night, a couple of them I changed so much during therapy. Everything in my life changed. The way I look at the world, even some of my political thoughts, everything changed doing this deep dive, this journey of self-actualization and exploration, that when I came in to work at the police department, it just looked different. It just did. And it's funny, I remember when I got demoted, and it was this long hallway out to the police department, straight long hallway, which was long anyway, and it just seemed like even more long that day because I was emotional and I felt myself crying, getting emotional. And of course, I'm in uniform. I think I was the patrol leader that day. You know, I got my shades on, got my high and tight. I'm just trying to beat feet out the station as quick as I can because I feel the crying coming on. And it did. I mean, I walked out the door, got in my car, and started waterworks, called my wife. And I forget, Kristen said the same thing. She goes, the first thing she said, very first thing she said, June of 2019, well, I guess you're going to be leaving there. And I'm crying. I said, no, I'm not, babe, I'm not going here. Like, I'm going to weather the storm here. This is where I love being here. I love the people I work with. I love the community. Like, I'm going to weather that. This never happened to me. I'm going to figure this thing out. And she told this story maybe 6 months ago. She's like, I heard you choking back the tears and you were like trying to talk, you pump yourself up. And she's like, it's still to this day, I get heartbroken thinking how much you were struggling then. But she knew what I didn't know at that time. And she saw a bigger path for me as my spouse and my wife, my best friend that even I didn't see. So getting clear and getting through that therapy and getting healthy and focused, you know, walking into the police department in 2020, in the middle of the George Floyd riots, COVID hit, and I'm on patrol, you know, leading a squad then. And I, you know, I had a great year 2020. I was getting healthy. I loved the squad I was with. I was feeling connected to other human beings and doing good work. So it was really a good year, but it was further my knowledge and belief that I have to leave. I have to do something more. There is something bigger for me out there. I don't know what it is, but I just felt this pull, this absolute calling to just, hey, I did it. Now, there were days I'm thinking maybe I'm making a mistake, but the process of leaving the police department at 13 years when I didn't retire fully, although it's considered a retirement, but it's not a full retirement, and having 3 kids at home and still kind of coming out of the brokenness and healing, all these things where it was a scary time to leave and to go into business, which is what I did. I ended up buying an existing PI firm, very small here in Pennsylvania. The founding owner was a retired police chief. It was just him. He was in his 70s, just did cases here and there to kind of offset his pension. But for me, I needed a salary. I needed money. I needed a career. I needed to provide for my family. So even though I was excited, I was terrified at the same time. And I knew my family was looking at me, and I was still kind of coming out of it. So yeah, it was just this whole journey to this day has been just nothing but amazing. So I took some things. There's 15 things that through this journey that really have stuck out to me. I took some notes today because I just wanted to share them with you. And these are things that for me, I have learned or discovered in myself, or learned and discovered in the world, or I just found this to be really, really powerful for me. So, you know, these are things that I never advocate to anybody that these are just things that for me, I hopefully you guys can benefit from them. But through that process of leaving and getting into business, and even asking myself to this day, is this what I want to do? Is this where I want to be? Do I want to do background investigations? You know, probably not. You know, I don't know. I love having a private business. I love leading other people. I have a great team. I love taking care of them and helping them and serving them. But I don't know. And that's the kind of whole point of this journey of self-actualization that I kind of think we're all on in a way is we don't know where the destination is. And frankly, it really shouldn't matter. We should be focused on the journey, because I feel like every stop on the journey, good and bad, are these rich lessons for us to dig into. And I feel like those lessons are what changes our destination or changed our journey. Those lessons might shoot us in a different direction. We just jump off the path and get on another one. And I just love that. So, and I say this, obviously not knowing you guys a long time, but you know, I was kind of a plan everything out kind of guy before. So it's just been a really cool process to change personally. So through this journey, I've learned that my family is the priorities for my family are absolutely number one. I think we all feel that way. So, but for me, I kind of make every decision now, even professionally. How does this affect my family? And it's already helped me in a short period of time make choices on, yes, I'm going to try this, or no, I want to try that. I've already turned down some amazing opportunities, frankly. And since I left, that it just wouldn't be good for my family. And I was proud of myself that one of them in particular, I easily said no to when I really want to do it. I get choked up thinking about it. Sorry. I'm just proud of myself that I was able to say no so quickly, because again, I get back to my family. I realized that we all have egos. We all have things in our life that contribute to cause our egos to be what they are. Healthy ego is a good thing. I realized looking back, my ego wasn't in an unhealthy mode. It just was. So I'm just glad I got to reset that. The humility I developed through this process has been amazing in my relationships. Multiple people have told me already in a short period of time, including my wife multiple times, of just how much more present I am. And she thinks a lot of that is through my humility, because I'm not focused on the next big thing or chasing, which I always was. I would get a lot of self gratification, self-worth from the accomplishments I did, which in and of itself isn't bad to feel rewarded for what you do, but I was chasing that. I learned I was chasing those things. So just having that humility to not need to chase everything to make myself feel good about myself when I have enough already. I've really, again, been trying to not get outcome focused, which is what I usually did before. I'm really just focusing on the journey and the exploration. It's been amazing. I've learned a lot. It's been very scary. So one of the things that I did, and I wanted to come up with a metric. I wanted to know each time I'm trying to do something that fills my cup, that's rewarding to me, that fulfills me, that anything, what's my metric? And my mind was happiness. I would use happiness level. And there were some things I was doing when I first left with the company, the PI firm, that was making some money, was having some success, but it didn't align with, Kristen and what was going on at home. So the happiness level wasn't as high as I wanted. So I was kind of using that metric, and it kind of just helped me kind of fake my way, not fake, but muddle my way through it, to still doing it now to make these decisions. So I know this is kind of flower child hippie stuff. So another thing I learned, we can reprogram our brains. Absolutely. It was awesome to learn how to do that. And Chris and so many others, just people that post things and write things. I'm able to take some classes and get, I went to this one training, Blue Courage, which is amazing. It helped me learn how to rewire my brain and reprogram, which has been an amazing thing for me. So controlling our emotions down for me, and I was talking with other people about this, I have found to be probably the single, and again, this is just what I found. I'm not saying it's true or anything like that, not supported by research or anything, but regulating our emotions in a very healthy way, I have found has probably been the single most benefactor to my really leveling up my relationships. Listening, processing before I react, saying I understand what you said. Let me think about that. I mean, there's been already times already where somebody hit me with, I have a friend that's going through a really bad time, and I didn't know how to respond. So I just told him, I said, look, I need to think about this because I want to answer you with absolute intention and heart. And I don't know right now. And I would have never done that before. I would have told him what he wanted to hear. I would have faked my way through it. I would have said, bro, I don't know. I'm just, again, it's just little lessons that I'm proud of myself going through that, through this process. I keep saying again, but gratitude and positivity, I have found to be, and you guys all have talked about this before in different posts or angles, but the positive mindset, the mindset entirely has been, for me, saved my life. It really saved my life. I don't think if I had the positive nature that I do, or the mindset that I have, I don't know that I would have pulled through. I just don't know. So I really dug into mindset, still learning. I don't know anything about it. Reading and just very curious about it, because I'm learning how much this feeds everything. And it's been really cool for me to build my resiliency through my abilities and not anything external, which is another thing that I've really been enjoying, is realizing how much all of us, we only need ourselves. I mean, I'm a very social creature, very outgoing, very connected. One of my strengths, taking this personality test, is connectedness, being connected to other people. And through this entrepreneurial journey has been the hardest lesson I've learned through this. And I've kind of done it purposefully, is being alone, being isolated, being by myself. I realize that it's a very scary thing for me. I don't know if any of you guys have gone through that, but being in a space for the last 20 months, the team members I have are remote, so I don't work with them. So there are weeks where I'm doing by myself with nobody else. And it is so against who I am and what I just need to operate. Again, I didn't know that until I'd gone through it. But what I found is I am starting to embrace being alone and being being scared, and all these things that I never wanted to do. Now I'm starting to look forward to it. And it blows my mind that something 6 months ago, a year ago, that I was terrified of, crying, having panic attacks, wanting to quit this job 1,000 times, sell the firm, do something else, be a cop again 1,000 times. Now I'm digging into that uncomfortable feeling. I like it. And now I ask for, like, I want it. I want to be uncomfortable because I know through that discomfort is going to be a lesson. Like, I get excited for that now. And it's just, again, I was never like that. So that is really cool. That's all my little notes. But I wanted to just talk about the journey of self-discovery. And I think I'm still learning it. I don't know it. I'm going through it. But this journey I'm on of self-actualization, Maslow's law of needs, and the hierarchy of needs. I mean, I'm aiming for the absolute top of to find out where Jesus best wants me in this world and what I can do to absolutely help people. And it is, I don't know. And it's really, really cool. That would have scared me 3 years ago. I mean, I know, I can't tell me it's not to my wife, I need to know how much money I'm going to make. I have a family to support. Like, I was just putting so much pressure on myself, and to get to a point now where I'm like, I don't know, and I don't care. And I want to find out, and I'm going to ask a million questions and do different things, read different things, watch 1,000 different things until I figure it out. And the longer it takes me to figure out, it's probably going to be the better for me. Even though it sucks, that delayed gratification is probably going to be the best for me. So the longer I can delay, but all this stuff scared me before. So it's just been a cool thing to do it. And one of the things that really helped me was in 2014, I took a positive psychology class, and I don't know if you guys ever taken one, but it just opened my eyes. It really changed the way I feel about just life. It just did. I embraced it. I wanted it. And I'll tell you the story. This is a funny story, and I tell this to the cadets of the academy. But the final assignment, and maybe you guys could, let's do this. Actually, I'm gonna write this down. Hold on. A challenge assignment, homework assignment, to do a gratitude letter if you haven't done one. So I'll tell you the story, and here's what I learned from it. This is an amazing story, by the way. So the gratitude instructor, the professor, puts up the assignment on the screen. It says gratitude letter. This is 2014, so I'm 34, and it's to my undergrad. I'm a detective then, and everything was really good in my life at that point, as far as wasn't overly stressed or burned out. Again, some of the stuff didn't really hit me yet. So, and he says to me, he says to the class, you have to write a gratitude letter. But what you have to do is you have to find somebody from your past that you haven't seen in a long time, somebody that had a tremendous impact on you. You have to handwrite them a letter. You have to meet them somewhere. You have to read them the letter, write to them in person, and then give them the letter to read. And half the class is like, oh my God. And I was like digging. I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. Through this process, it took me about a month. I reached out to my friend, and it's recorded, so I want to be careful because I know he's really personal. I reached out to a friend, and this friend of mine was somebody I played sports with in high school. Very just ahead of his time, very mature, caring, the best player in the field, captain of the football team and the baseball team, just an amazing, handsome, just an amazing guy, likable, just perfect. And he just really made a profound impact on me, because I remember being in high school, graduating at 17, being a kid, thinking at that age of how mature Dennis was to be different than a typical high school kid. So I write this letter to Dennis, and I haven't seen Dennis at this point like 15 years. I call him up, I get his number, call him up. He's like, yo, bro, what's up? I'm like, hey, man. I was like, hey, you want to meet for a beer? He goes, yeah, that's me. I said, all right. So we meet at Wegmans at a grocery store, and we have a bar there at the Wegmans pub, and we meet there, and we're sitting there, and he's sitting right next to me. I'm drinking my beer. Now I know I have to read this letter, and I'm trying to think, when am I going to read this letter to him? And I thought the longer it goes on, it would be weirder. So I'm just going to do it right off the bat, which is probably the mistake. So I say, Dennis, I got to read you a letter, man. I'm sorry, but I got to read you a letter. And he's like, what? I said, this is going to be weird, but I got to read you a letter. So I end up reading him this letter. And I tell the story for a reason, because I'm nervous, and I'm sitting at the bar, like looking straight at you. He's sitting off to the side. I mean, I'm looking at him. I'm sorry. He's sitting straight ahead, looking straight ahead. I'm on my stool tilted. I'm staring straight at him. And we're like 10 inches from each other. So I write, Dear Dennis, and I start reading this letter. He's totally uncomfortable, by the way. I'm uncomfortable. I'm nervous. I'm like, because it's really personal and it's handwritten and it's really deep. And I'm crying. I start crying in the middle of a bar, right? Total, just, yeah. So I read the letter to Dennis. He doesn't say anything. Now I'm thinking, what the heck just happened? I look over. This is not an emotional guy. And I look over and he's got a tear coming down his cheek. And he turns to me. Oh, did I just say his name? And he turns to me and he says, thanks. I really needed that. I'm really going through a tough time. And everything you said in the letter is stuff I don't feel about myself. And I can't believe that we're here and you're saying this to me. Like, I don't understand like what's going on. It was such an amazing moment. It was like, I told my professor about this and he was like, this is why I sign these things. And this is amazing. And it was just an amazing story. And that like springboarded him and I reconnecting and staying in touch to this day. And this gratitude letter exercise has been awesome because every police academy class, everyone, I challenge the cadets, and every class, at least one does it. And every class for 4 years now, they have shared it with me. And it is, I should do a whole post about that. It is unbelievable the stories that come out of just writing somebody a handwritten gratitude letter and then meeting them in person, reading it to them. That level of connectedness is unbelievable. So if you guys ever want to try it, I think it'll be awesome. So this journey for me, and I'm going to wrap it up here in a second. I'll just talk way too much and I want to engage. But so the journey of self-actualization, just to finish, I don't know where this is going to go for me. I want to share about it as I learn it. It's weird. It's been a weird yet entertaining, interesting yet scary journey. And I have pretty much foregone the need. I don't want to say the need for money. That sounds stupid, but I need money to pay bills and things like that. I don't know. I want to go and I don't care where it takes me. And I'm in this mode and I want to just live a beautiful life and help a lot of people. So that's it. That's all I got.
Dude, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. That's super cool. I have taken a ton of notes and there's a couple things I wanted to touch on because I thought they were really special moments. Wow, you gotta have my thoughts kind of twisted up at the moment, but few questions. One is, did you ever go back to rectify the Army issues?
I did. Yeah. You mean like the mental health stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Is
still
that part of the therapy?
It is. Yeah. I'm still hitting that hard. And that's a good question because, I ignored that for so long and dealing with that now has been helpful for me. And I am just trying to understand as much as I can about mental health. And I know we're all in the same boat, right? We're all trying to learn and just, I think we're on the forefront of us in the first responder community of how much knowledge we're learning from a practitioner level. I mean, not researchers and PhDs, but obviously they're way more intelligent. But I just mean like the grunt work, the in the field, us like, I feel like we in the last couple of years have just learned so much. And now here we are trying to help you, our peers and our colleagues. And that has been pretty cool.
That's awesome. My next question, I actually want to preface with some context. So the agency I retired from, the current chief, who was the chief the last couple of years I was there, who I absolutely despise. I'll leave it at that. And for many different reasons. In his retirement, I'm not going to the retirement ceremony because I'll probably end up making a mess of it. So I'm going to leave that alone. But if I ever come across that guy, I want to ask him, why did you never ask me if I was okay? Why did you never think that the change in what was going on the last 2 years of my career was because I was fucked up and bitter? Why did you not take a moment back and go, that guy hasn't been like that for 18 years. What the hell just happened? And why did you never ask me if I was okay? Have you ever thought about going back to your agency to ask that question, or have you done that?
I thought about it and I prayed on it a lot, and no, I'm not going to do anything with that. But that's a great, I mean, that thought went through my head so much, but what I learned from me and just through my experience, what's helped me is I really feel like the most healthy people in the world are the ones that go to therapy, are the ones that are like us, digging in and really trying to grow and evolve. But I feel like we're in the minority, and especially in the first responder community, a lot of leaders, a lot of people in general are just unhealthy people. They're
I
not in
agree.
a great place to love themselves. So how can they love anybody else? And if you're not going to love yourself, then you're not going to love me. You're not going to ask me how I'm doing. You're not going to ask me, hey, why are you struggling, or why are you drinking more? You don't care, right? Because you're struggling. So I did think that, but the more I pray, the more I reflect, the more I grow. I just realized that, they're broken people and they're broken organizations, and not everybody in it, obviously, but those people that make those decisions. And I'll be honest, I pray now. I got to the point where I pray every night for the people that were in my chain of command at where I worked at. I pray for them because I know they're struggling. I know it. And I know they're hurting. I know that now. I feel grateful that I made it out. I feel grateful
Yeah.
my family loves me. I feel grateful I have a good business that's thriving. I feel grateful that I love myself and love my neighbors and my family. Like, I feel grateful for all these things. I can't be mad at them or resent them. I pray for them that they find the peace that I have. I feel grateful to be where I'm at. So I think
That's
it's a
amazing.
great thought, and I did think that, yeah, a lot.
Yeah, I think that's something that when I go back and talk to some other agencies or folks or people that are still in the business, I ask that question all the time. Your leadership is so important that you need to ask people what's going on. Why did they change? You need to consider. I don't know. That's one of my pet peeves. But
Yeah, Dave, can I piggyback on that real quick?
yeah,
I
absolutely.
also think I think a lot of leaders don't know how to ask the question. They don't know how to have this
They don't.
conversation. We don't
Nope.
know how to have good dialogue. So that's a really scary topic. And if I don't know how to do it, I'm not confident in it, I'm going to avoid it like the plague. So, I mean,
I agree.
I understand generationally why that happened. So we need to get out there and help these leaders learn how to have these tough conversations. And in my business now, that's what I'm doing. So it's pretty cool here in PA to do that.
Yeah, I thank you. I love when you say your spouse, Kristen, she saw a better path for you that you didn't see. My wife and I never had that conversation during my in-service years, but when I retired and couldn't figure it out, she was the one that saw everything light years before I could had figure it out on my own. Without her, I wouldn't have the confidence to do anything that I've done, and I just think that's a special recognition that our spouses have, that they see the qualities in us that we struggle to find in ourselves. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up. I thought that was super cool.
Dave, there were times when I I mean, I think all of us have been there, right? That's why we're in this group. So we've all had those really deep, dark thoughts. What I also have is really low self-esteem, critically low self-esteem. And I learned this through therapy in the process. So I actually have a book I want to talk about too. And I don't want to talk about it if everyone's read it and waste time. But so for me, with the low self-esteem, I have that voice. That voice. So the book is called The Deadly Diet.
Can you talk about the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence? Because you and I had that discussion. I think that's an important one to have.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So I have a lot of self-confidence and really low self-esteem. So my view of myself is really low. It's weird, but if you give me a task or assignment, something really challenging, I'm like, yo, let's fucking go. It's weird. And I think I thrive in that when it's a team setting. I'm probably bad at that when when I'm by myself. But I'm all full confidence with teams, and I think I don't know how to describe it. I just think they're separate. I had to learn they're separate. I kind of always lumped them together, and I think our view of ourselves, like this book, The Deadly Diet, really hit home for me that we all have a voice inside of our head. So the Deadly Diet was written about eating disorders. So obviously, it's a lot of women read the book because women statistically have eating disorders more than men, but it really caters to anybody that has low self-esteem, because an eating disorder, the crux of it is low self-esteem. So I learned reading this book that we have a voice inside of our head. And in the book, it was an amazing book because I read this literally crying. I was crying, so desperate to feel something other than what I was feeling. And I'm paging through this book, crying, and I learned about the voice, and it actually gives you tips how to shut the voice down. So when the voice tells you, oh, you wouldn't be good at this opportunity, or so-and-so doesn't really like you, they're inviting you because they feel bad for you, or all those crazy negative thoughts that we all have, some louder than others, voices louder than others, you can actually turn that voice off. There's techniques and methods you can do to shut that off, to silence that voice, to not hold you back as much. It changed my life. It changed my life. And I didn't realize I didn't even know what the voice was. I just thought that was me talking, And then I realized I read this book and I'm like, oh my God, I have a loud voice. And now I'm going to tell it to shut the fuck up so I can get back to my life. And it was very empowering. So, yeah. So if you have low self-esteem, I highly recommend that book. Really helped me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. I'm not going to go through all your 15 things, but the one thing that stands out to me is the brain science that you started talking about, and how the brain repairs itself, and the whole concept of neuroplasticity is, when I started learning about that last year, I was like, holy crap, I'm fucked up, but you know what? I can repeat these positive steps and my brain will rewire itself. And that's so crazy to think about. But I think it's so important to understand the actual brain science behind
You want to go
healing.
out?
Because it gives you the encouragement and the light and the window to go towards, knowing that it's possible.
Yeah.
Because the brain, it really is such an amazing thing. So I'm glad you brought that up as well.
And it gives you control. It gives you control.
100%.
And I feel like as first responders, we want control. And when we feel like we don't have it, like when I went through that demotion, I felt powerless. I felt like I couldn't even go to the bathroom without asking my sergeant for permission. Like it wasn't true, but in my head, that's what I was.
Yep.
I just felt powerless, and learning how to reprogram and rewire our brains gives us that power back. Oh no, I'm in control. I'm in control. All right, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was super cool. And I love the idea of the gratitude letter. Did you go through the MAP program at Penn? Is that where you got that from?
No,
okay.
no. It was the Sales University where I went my undergrad.
Okay. Oh, very cool. Because Dr. Seligman's book Flourish, that's where a lot of those concepts of positive psychology come from. He's like the grandfather of all that. And so when you were talking about that, I just kind of assumed that it was part of the MAP program, which is pretty awesome. Have you read Flourish?
I have not. No.
Oh my goodness. It's literally everything we all do and talk about. Yeah. Dr. Seligman is the grandfather of all of it. And you'll rip through the book pretty quickly. And you'll
Flourish.
Flourish. Yeah. Martin Seligman is the author.
How do you say flourish?
Flourish.
Flourish.
No, it's not like home. It's flourish.
Yeah. Flourish. You're right. Flourish.
It's your Pennsylvania roots. Sorry about that. But yeah, no, I think you'll love that, because that's in there actually. That was one of his concepts, was the gratitude letter, and the whole idea of gratitude. And we talk about that often, and everybody here has heard me preach on it 100 times over. The gratitude, doing a gratitude journal, and I know Janet is big on this, is journaling as well. Gratitude journal is awesome. When you wake up or go to sleep every day or every night, and you start and end your day with that positive thought, everything in the middle has to be good, right? Because joy and sadness can't live in the same space at the same time. So if you bookend it with these positive things, everything in the middle is gonna just pale in comparison. So yeah, the whole idea of gratitude, and we do gratitude bags, and we've talked about that too. Like every time I get on the airplane, I give gratitude bags to the pilot and the stewardess. My kids do it at the ski lift. So to watch a lift attendant making $8 an hour, get a small bag of chocolates, and the smile and joy on their face, and then my kid lights up because that person lit up. Like, the gratitude bags are the coolest things. If you're not doing gratitude bags, I highly recommend it. That's cool. And we'll talk more about the book at the end, because I think it's important for everybody to understand what your book's about and get it. So, all right, let's go. Enough of me talking. Todd, go ahead, bud.
Okay, well, first and foremost, Backstreet Boys. I think there's some unresolved trauma behind that. So
would you like to hear the story how I got involved?
Terry, you may want to give it a chat again, because I think there's some things that haven't been quite worked through yet there.
Fair enough.
But a lot of what you said, and one of the things that I love about this tribe is every one of us has, and I'm gonna say some very unchaplain-like stuff here. We've all been through some pretty fucked up shit, but we've all come through it, and we've all turned it into something positive. And I think, I spent almost 3 decades in a really shitty place. And you know, spend a night with a gun in my mouth and other fun activities like that. And I spent all that time thinking that God had forgotten all about me. And when I finally got the help I needed, I realized that he hadn't forgotten me, he was equipping me. And I think that's the amazing thing about everybody that I see in front of me on this screen, is that I think for all of the shit that every one of us has been through, I think if we asked all of these people, they wouldn't regret what they went through, because it's brought them where they are now, and it's equipped them for the work that they're doing now. And every single one of us is using that experience to help other people. And that's why I love every single one of you, because we're all turning that shit into gold. And David, you know, talking about going back and talking to your chief, I think every one of us should reconnect with an agency, whether it's the agencies we were with previously or another agency, because there's a lot of them out there that are still have a long way to go in learning how to build up resilient officers and firefighters, because these things that we know now, because we've been through it, those are the things that they need to be learned in an academy. Those are the things that firefighters in their first 12 weeks need to be learning how to do. I just got through my second level peer support CISM training, and now I'm applying at the Waukee Police and Fire Department to be their chaplain, and this is the kind of thing that I think we need to do, is reconnect with, because I think all of us are now retired. I don't see Gregorio on here, who's still active duty. We need to reconnect and reconnect with all those active duty guys, and man, step out in the road, because a lot of those guys are gonna, you know, drive off the side if we can't get to them. So I really want to thank you for coming on here and sharing your story. Every time a new person comes on here, I hear something different, but I hear something that I connect with my own story every time. Thank you.
That's the cool thing. Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate you sharing yours.
Cool. I just put the 2 books, Martin Seligman's 2 books in the chat if anybody's interested in Let's Flourish and Learned Optimism. I've read them both several times. They're awesome. Don't pass them up. Chris Chandler Yates. You're on mute, buddy. That's some Bush League stuff right there.
I am. That is some pretty average stuff, isn't it? I'm trying to do too much shit today. I got a public speaking event next week I'm trying to prepare for. Nah, Chad, it's good to see you again.
Is that a tiger swimming in a pool?
It is a tiger swimming in a pool. It's supposed to be Palm
cool.
Beach. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's Mike Tyson's house in Palm Beach or something. I'll go steal his tiger. Yeah, man. No, I just wanted to say, you know, awesome sharing as well. And yeah, you've got so much different stuff that you can teach, like honestly, with what you're doing anyways for work, but then just adding in I mean, that's all I do for work, man, because I just teach people the stuff that I went through and how not to go through it. So
you're damn good at it.
And as Todd said, you know, reaching out to departments. I'm in talks with Aurora PD at the moment, and talks with Marysville PD about getting my training stuff into their academies and that. So you can, if I can do it from the other side of the world, or all of us can do it. So yeah, no, that's all I wanted to say. It was just, yeah, good to see you, and yeah, thanks for sharing, man.
Thanks, man. You too.
And Chris, keep posting those pictures of yourself. My wife loves them.
I'm glad, man. I know that you're secretly got them posted all over your office on the other side of the screen. So
Yeah, right next to Chad's Backstreet Boys pictures hanging on my wall over my bed.
hey man, hey, I know you love it. It inspires something. Hey, I've got a buddy of mine that helped teach me how to sail and do all sorts of stuff back when I was like 16, 17. Back in the gym, he wants to lose about 40 kilos, which is about 80, 90 pounds. So he's training with me and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
awesome. I just need to stop eating. I'm disgusting.
It is. It's 90% fucking what you put in your mouth.
100%. Garbage in, garbage out.
That's how I've had a six-pack since the 4th of July. So you know.
That's awesome. I have a six-pack.
I can help all of you. Just call me. I coach. You know that, right?
Yeah, I have my six-pack and your six-pack, I think, look a little different. Mine comes in cans. The
I was gonna say it's not a keg and a six-pack are two totally different things, bro.
Janet, good.
Well, I think, thank you for sharing. I love the gratitude letter, and I use something similar in my workshops. But I also did a session for a library, an hour and a half on just on the power of gratitude. And I'll send it to you. I've got a 30-day gratitude sheet.
Oh, wow.
That is pretty powerful too.
I want to talk about journaling too. We'll have to connect at some point.
Yeah, definitely. And we're doing a program. I don't know whether you saw it, starting on Wednesday.
Okay. No, I didn't see it. Yeah, no. They've said something earlier, you journal, and I've been journaling since the 6th grade. So it's been 30, plus years. So I love it. It's a big part of my life. And so I would love to talk to you about it.
Yeah, you and I'll talk more. Anyhow, thank you a lot. And this is a great group. And just to pick on Todd there, Ryan is in the group and he is still working. And I had something I was going to say. Oh, David, I had something to say too. For everybody, about being angry at somebody, like I had a lot of that in me. And somebody taught me, and this was sort of the beginning of my journaling, to write a letter. You wrote, Chad, a gratitude letter, but to write a letter and put all your anger and whatever thing else in it. I was told to write it to my dad, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And she told me something very wise, and that I use in my journaling workshops is you don't have to mail it. And the power of that, and what I started to do and suggest, everything in our lives that is important, we ritualize. And so what I started doing and teaching is that you write that letter, and then you go to a safe place, and I anoint mine with some essential oil, and then I burn it. And sometimes there's layers of it, and but it's amazing how it works, because it works for people that you're not willing to send it to. You let a higher energy deal with it. And also what it does for people that have passed that you can no longer talk to. And it works forgiveness or release. I had to do it around one of our animals that I couldn't be there when they died. And I just had so much in me. I couldn't, I just was working in my mind all the time. And so I had to write her a letter, and I did it. So these are just different tools, but I thank you for sharing, because I think that we need to realize we do have that tool, and we can do that tool, and it does work. So thank you.
Thanks, Janet.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, I think writing is interesting. So when I left, I left with so much anger, it was ridiculous. And I started writing articles, as some of you know, and getting those thoughts to live somewhere else other than in my own head was so cathartic for me. And like you said, some of it ended up published, some of it ended up in the garbage, but either way, it was out of my head, and I know it exists somewhere else, and that's cool, because you can always reflect on it. You can always remember it. You can always go back to it, but it's not scrambling your noodle anymore, which is awesome. Yeah, writing's fantastic.
Wow. for me with that, with the forgiveness and letting go, I just, we subject ourselves to whatever we subject ourselves to. We're the ones that go through it. So time is something that we all have the same amount of, no more, no less, and we decide how we have to use it. I just got tired of using my time, which is finite, it's limited, to worry about somebody who I guarantee is not thinking about me at that time. Why? Like, why? And then I get back to it. So I get back to, I've been telling my kids about this choice, accountability. Everything's a choice. So don't tell me you can't, you chose not to, right? And I just get back to choice. I choose, I don't want to be this way, then I'm going to have to find a way not to be this way. Not that it's easier, I know, but how to do it. But I think we have so much more capacity than we realize sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. Michelle, go ahead.
So Chad, I do have a question for you, but first I wanted to kind of piggyback off that too. David, when I started going to the therapy with the workers' comp therapist that I see right now, she's amazing, but I had so much accumulative trauma that I was holding on to that I kind of had a similar mindset of you. I wanted to go back and ask people, like, you saw I was fucked up, like, why did you ignore it? But then she asked me a question and I actually started changing my mindset on how much energy I put into that. She asked me, could they ever give you an answer that you would be okay and accepting of? And the answer for me is no, but that is just another perspective to think about it too. But
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. That's insightful for sure.
yeah, it still sucks, but
Yeah.
and Chad, thank you so much. I feel like I just got like a double dose of you today because I listened to your podcast or Chris's podcast this morning and then tonight, and I still have a whole page of notes, and I feel like you have so much to say that is very positive and kind of resonates a lot with me. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, because January 7th of 2021 was my last day at work. I went out thinking I was just going to be on leave for a month and then I'd be back to work. Fast forward to now, and I'm filed under workers' comp. They've accepted my claim for PTSD, and I'm finally starting the transition out of the field. And it took me almost a full year to finally start accepting that because I wasn't ready to leave. I'm not near retirement age. I had only put in 14 years. So I'm accepting that I'm leaving dispatch. I'm no longer a dispatcher, but I am scared shitless about what do I find to do next? How am I going to provide for my family? What if I fail? And my therapist has been extremely helpful, thank goodness, because we all have horror stories of them. And she's told me, if you go find another job, guess what? If you don't like it, you can get a new one. And that concept to me is very foreign because I started dispatching when I was 19. So it's all I've known is everything is about the career. So what helps or helped you when you are leaving the career knowing that you still need to provide for family, but what do you do next?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. It's still scary. I mean, I feel like, when you're in business and entrepreneurship, nothing's ever a guarantee. So finding ways, it's still a concern for me. I think, so one of the things my therapist helped me with was, I can do hard things. He would always remind me of, Chad, you can do hard things. You can do hard things. It's the stuff we tell kindergartens, first grade. My wife teaches that stuff. They have placards in the room. I can do hard things, right? But it's true. It's like, we're telling our kids this is good. Our generation, like these kids are going to grow up with all this mindfulness stuff. We had to learn it in our 30s, 40s, right? 20s, 30s, 40s. So for me, it was reminding myself, I can do hard things. So yeah, this is going to suck. This is going to be challenging. I don't know where this is going to go. And another thing it helped me do is why not? Why not you? Really helped me with my self-esteem because I would see other people do things. I'm like, well, I don't think I could ever do that, which is crazy because if I did do it, then I would go in there. It's my confidence, self-esteem it's strange how it is, but I just remind yourself, like, you are going to be okay. Like, I was trying when I left last year. I left January 2021, same as you.
Oh, okay.
I thought that I had to have it all figured it out. I have to have everything laid out. And it was such a lie, such a fallacy. You don't have to have it all figured out. Like, you don't know what you don't know, and that's okay. You're gonna figure it out. Just show yourself grace through it. That's what I learned is you can do, like, what you dealt with as a dispatcher. You're gonna have all those skills and talents are gonna translate somewhere, somehow. You
Yeah.
got to find that fit, and it's got to be good for you. You have to want you have to want it. So there's definitely no shortcut for transition, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that analogy with the dispatchers, because they're such a unique breed. They're the jugglers, right? Like, the dispatchers are so, first of all, underrated, underestimated. I mean, they're the backbone of any law enforcement or first responder agency. They're just not the public facing one, which is why I think they don't get the right recognition that they deserve. But they're the jugglers in the whole thing. So if you can juggle that under that level of stress, you can juggle the two balls at one time in a no stress environment. You'll figure that out. I've got faith. Terry.
Chad, first of all, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us. And I love the fact that you made it on again so that I could hear your story. I really respect the fact that you chose to move on and the resiliency you found in moving on from the force. And then I love how, I mean, the level of self-awareness and then intentionally setting the healthy boundaries in order to take care of yourself. And one of the things in that, and you even said you were really scared to be alone and doing things on your own in that, and more, you were used to being with the group and everything. It's so vital, and I know you realize this now. It's so vitally important for us all to have a healthy relationship with ourselves first before we can actually have relationships with others.
Wow, you're bad.
And I really like the happiness matrix. I've never heard that. And how you gauge what you're doing. And the other thing that touched me, and I literally just worked with a client, and much older, in their 60s, and the guilt that I helped him work through was about how the focus was on work and providing, and how much this individual missed with his children. You're not going to have to deal with that, because you're choosing family over all of that. And that's so refreshing to hear, and to know that you're actually finding the balance in that. And I really respect that. Again, going back to the resiliency, and you're doing it and you're living it, and you're setting a huge example for your kids in what they're going to live and share with generations from them, because they're learning it from their father, right? And their mother.
Right.
So that's huge. But then the other thing I really want to tell you is, you said, I don't know where I'm going. You're going as far as you want to go.
Yeah, I love that. You're right. You're right. I think it's good what you said about being in love with yourself. I mean, that's so true. And I wasn't for my whole life. So I'm glad you said that. I think when we love ourselves, that everything changes, everything takes off. But it's so easy to love somebody else, because I'm proud of who I am. I'm content with who I am. So therefore, I don't need to feel anything different than showering you with love or telling you, hey, you're really doing awesome at that. Like, it feels good to tell you that, because I feel that about myself. Right. So, and now I'm telling you that, and hopefully makes you feel good about yourself. And then I think about law enforcement, kind of what Dave was saying earlier. I just think there's a lot of hurting people in that job. And that's why we're mean to each other, because we're hurting, we're struggling. and cops can eat each other alive with the best of them. But I think it's because we're struggling, and we need to put more love and heart back in the job, and I think that will change. But thank you for saying that, Terry. Seriously, that you said that about my kids, and I got choked up for a second. Appreciate it.
Yeah, cops, we tend to eat our own, and I can't figure it out. But yeah, I think you're right. It's because we all have these demons and these things going on, and nobody's dealing with it because that's the way we've always done it. And it's interesting to watch. And when you said you were so much better off for getting out and looking back through that window and feeling bad for the people that are still stuck behind the glass, or however you, and that was my phrasing, but however you phrase it, that's so powerful because it's so true. And I do feel bad for the ones that are still there, to be honest with you. But in the same token, who's going to do that job if not them?
Yeah.
And it's a really tough spot, and we need to bring these. I don't know. These agencies have to be more open to allow.
Well, that's why, like Chris, what Chris is doing, Dave, you bring up a good point. What Chris is doing, Scott Medlin, other people are doing, like all these tons of law enforcement coaches. They're so critical right now because if this generation of law enforcement, if they don't learn how to fix themselves, how to take care of themselves, you can't expect people to help you or take care of you. Like anything in life, at the end of the day, if you're not trying to fight for yourself, don't expect someone else to. I mean, that's just a fact. So having coaches or having people out there who walk that walk saying, hey, I've been there, and brother, let me tell you, here's what I did wrong, or sister, here's what I did wrong. Let me help you. Here's what I learned. Like that is going to be huge for this generation, because sad as it is, they're not getting that from their chain of command largely.
They're not, and the lack of support from the electeds is tough too. So we're in New Jersey. We have this great resiliency program, but for a period of time, it was the pushback was unbelievable because the attorney general, just when he pushed out the resiliency program, like, oh, by the way, the George Floyd thing, yeah, we're going back 20 years in IA records and we're publishing them with your name and address. So everybody's like, well, I'm not buying into another state program when you're going to feed me in one hand and shove it up my ass in the other. No, it's not going to work. So yeah, there's so much lack of trust. And I think that becomes a big issue with it as well. Natalie and Chris.
Going on, guys. So I'm going to try to spin this in a positive way if I can, but you know me, I like to just blab. So Chad, I'm not sure if we met yet. So I'm Chris, retired Phoenix PD. It's my girlfriend, Natalie. She's in charge of Nothing But Love Notes. So I got a whole story, of course, like we all do here, but I'm going to touch on a couple things. Michelle kind of started this whole thing, and it got me thinking a little bit about, first and foremost, this family, I call it, that we have here is family that we all chose, right? When you got booted out of detectives back to patrol, that wasn't your choice. And so the question I have is like, well, when you make that decision to ask that question about, do you have any love for me? Do you not have any love for me? Or why this and why that? My first question is always, do I have any respect for this person, and do they even care about me? And when you very quickly realize, unfortunately, in our community that you don't, or that they don't, you start feeling pretty well left out, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think every single person in this group, I like to think myself included, that we've all made a choice to seek happiness and be better and be well, right? And again, we've chosen this family, thanks to Sarah, Mama Bear here. So I don't know if she's on. We're on our phone. I can't really tell. So, but because of what we've been through, what we've learned, now we take it to the next level. It's like, look, I'm sick of being over here getting beat up and hurt and all this other kind of stuff. So I'm going to go seek out something better and live the kind of life that I started, with my case, it was like 25 years ago. Now I'm thinking to myself, man, it took me that long to figure this shit out. And now Nat and I are living the best lives we've ever had because of stuff just like this, like we're talking about tonight. So
that's awesome, man. That is so cool. That is so cool. Hey, nice to meet you. I haven't met you guys before. So I got to connect on LinkedIn or something, because I need to just put names to faces, because I like this. I like this group. This is cool. This is what you guys are doing. It's my first time.
This is a really great group. I mean, everybody here, I think maybe we've met a few of them, a handful of them in person, but it just feels like family. And I'm just going to kind of expand on, I loved your whole gratitude letter story, because I started a whole movement on love notes, just writing love notes to strangers, giving a handwritten love note to a police officer or a veteran. You know, I've had more veterans and police officers break down in tears over a stranger handing them a love note in the middle of a Starbucks.
Wow.
Or, you know, Home Depot, catching them off guard like that.
So simple yet so impactful. Oh my God.
That you get with a complete stranger is amazing. And I tell people all the time, write letters, write to people, tell them how you feel. We're so connected digitally, but we're not connecting with people. So we were just at the grocery store and people are kind of roaming around aimlessly on their phones, not really looking at people. They're just stuck on their phones, pushing their carts. But a letter,
and getting in my way. So
a handwritten letter goes a long way, as you have seen. And I really loved that part of your story. So thank you for sharing.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna might try that. Notes to strangers. I think that's a
Well,
really.
you have to go look at my Facebook page is nothing but love notes. And my mom started it when she was going through cancer treatment, just to get her out of the house and to get our minds off of all the fear and uncertainty. And so we just started writing them, and it turned into this nationwide movement. So it's incredible. And I loved it.
That is awesome. That is so cool. Thank you.
sorry, Michelle, for calling you out. Hopefully I didn't embarrass you.
You're good, Chris. You're the one that's allowed to do that.
Okay.
It's interesting you bring up the cell phone thing in the supermarket, because I was thinking about that, something along that line earlier. And when Chad was talking about the process of the journey rather than the destination, one of the things we often talk about in the resilient minds class that we teach is being where your feet are. And it's so important to recognize the in the moment rather than just constantly hyper focused on the destination, because then the journey is useless. It doesn't teach you anything. So
think of the calendar, right? We all have calendars probably in our house, and we do this in ours. And my wife and I were just talking about this. We put an X over the day, you know, as it goes by. And then why are we counting days going by? Why aren't we just focused on the day that we're living in now? And it's like, I get it. It's a metric to day is over and we completed it's a task. I just think we should probably maybe examine or think about the way we look at time and reframe it to, you know, we had this guy, Jeff Schuffelbein. He's a business guy down in Texas. He was on our Breaking Bad show. And he said something that I'd never heard before, but it makes complete sense. He's like, I get to come to work each day. Not that I have to. Oh, I got to go to work today. No, I get to come to work each day. I get to come to work today. Like, wow. When you get to say that, obviously it's going to be hard to do. Not everybody says that or feels that way, but that's a good metric to work towards.
No, I agree.
Reframing is so powerful.
So
Reframing.
powerful. And chasing the dollars for whether it's your job or whatever you're doing is never successful.
All right.
And it often costs you more than it rewards you with. And but when you can do things that are passionate and passion points for you, the reward of finances will naturally come.
Yeah.
And it
my dad
in the moment, but
my dad was a very successful contractor. Did very well in the 80s. Got cocky, lost all his money and then some. We had to bounce around, we had to move, and his humility and all the lessons that he learned. And it's funny, I asked, you know, he has this saying that he says, Dad, what did you learn through all that experience? You know, he's to this day, he doesn't have that much money. And he said, I'm okay with it. Like, I didn't like who I was. I like the person I am now. And he says, I said, what did you learn from all that? And he goes, simple. It's very simple for me. I confuse my self-worth with my net worth, or my net worth with my self-worth. I got it all mixed up. So don't do that. I was like, all right.
Yep.
I mean, I was a child and he told me that, so it's kind of stuck with me. But you know, money's an interesting thing, right? It's like this piece of paper and we're all trying to chase it and get it. But it's easy to kind of skew away from your passions when you're doing that.
Just literally put a letter of resignation in today at my day job. I literally have 4 jobs. Like I have my mission, my Love Note mission, and I had a day job with a nonprofit, and I freelance write. I'm helping one of our family members here write his book. But the job was pulling me away from all the stuff that I love. And so today I've been bugging him about it weeks, like, what do I do? And he's like, you know what you need to do. So you're right. I was, you know, nice to have all this money coming in and, you know, socking it away, but I was miserable. So.
Yeah. And good for you, man. Like that, to me, that courage to leave a job.
Big deal.
Is a big deal. Yeah. Like we need to celebrate that. Like you put in a resignation, you made a choice for your life, your personal life. Like kudos to you. 9 out of 10 people are like, oh, I can't quit my job. I mean, why can't you? Like we put all these limitations on ourselves. And I'm not saying the answer is to go out and quit jobs, but damn, Ellie, I mean, that's inspiring. I mean, I love that.
My
Free and good. It was the right.
my peer support trainer likes to say, we didn't get into this for the money. We got to make money. We got into this to make a difference.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what
you
we're all
know,
doing here.
when it comes to jobs in our society too, we put so much emphasis on our identity with that job. I mean, think about it. When we go out, when we actually meet people, what's one of the first questions we ask? So what do you do? And that's one of the things that actually messes with our head, because we do identify with what we do for a job as who we are, instead of what we are, who we are as an individual.
And then we judge that person for what they tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Horrible. Right.
So
So
if somebody tells me that they're a janitor, you have this like bias towards janitors, right? Like that, you know, that they couldn't do better.
Yeah.
As an example. But without that person keeping our sanitation in the places that we need most sanitized.
Well,
where would we be?
Dave, think of it this way. If you drive through New York and all the trash collectors are on strike, you're going to notice. Whereas if all the attorneys were on strike,
we're going to notice too. Everybody be much happier.
We notice everybody be partying.
Bad example.
We're going to be in New York at Christmas. I don't know how close you are to New York City, but we're going to be December.
I'm 47 miles southwest.
Well, we're going to be there December 9th through the 12th. We're going to go see Rockefeller Center. And
awesome. Oh, if you don't see me, you're fired.
From what?
I don't know. I'll figure it out. from your day job.
When I put in my retirement papers, I could have gone a few more years and got a better pension. And they asked me, well, why don't you go a few more years? And I said, well, it's my job or my life. Because if I stay, I'll die in this job. And that's when I came back as contract, so I could control where I worked, when I worked, and sometimes who I worked with. And I just gave that up. In August last year was the last time I had a contract, and it was time. Yeah, it was good money, but I'll be 70 soon, so it's time.
Yeah. Good for you.
That's one thing that you said, Chad, that really resonated with me was getting what you do mixed up, so badly with who you are. My firefighting career ended very suddenly. I took a dive through a stairway collapse, and it screwed up my back, and I was lost. I was absolutely, completely lost, because being a firefighter was who I was. And and you don't realize that it's not who you are. You do what you do because of who you are. And man, that you know, that is something that is really tough to get past, is having, and I think more so with first responders, because you know, that was, and much more so in the past for these poor law enforcement officers, you know, that was a very highly respected profession. You know, firefighters, everybody calls you a hero your whole career, and you know, and you start to believe that shit. and when it all just is just gone like that, you know, just instantly, man, you just, you know, the rug is just pulled out from under you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in the interest of time, I want to give Chad the opportunity to shamelessly plug his book.
Go,
we,
bruh.
we don't even have to do that, you know.
Nah, it's important. It's really a culmination of who you are, and I think it's a good read to kind of set the pace for the next person. So I think you should throw that in there.
It's not that interesting. It's
Just, will you
I
please
beg
tell
to
us what the
differ.
book is? I want to hear.
We want to hear it.
Hey,
After, so don't worry.
I'll let Dave talk. I mean, I co-wrote this book with another former police officer, and it's not that I'm not proud of it or anything. It's just I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's that.
what if you get out of your own way and just tell us?
I know, you're right. I am my own way. Thank you for saying that. It's a book on proactive policing. So following the riots of 2020, and I mean, I don't know if anybody else was working the street then, but I just watched hundreds and thousands of cops I know in my area that just stopped doing their job. And I get it. I mean, I get it. Yeah, the COVID, the George Floyd riot. So in the short term, I get it. I totally got it. I was like that too, to some degree. But there needs to be a point where we need to come back as police officers, and we still have a job to do. We have some citizens that need us, and so there's a way we can be proactive police officers and not be a-holes, right? We can still, like, I had tremendous relationships with and that's kind of the crux of I give techniques and methods, or how can we do pedestrian stops, subject stops, vehicle stops? How can we continue to be aggressive and take drugs and weapons off the street and still get along with everybody and not be an a-hole, and solicit their cooperation? I mean, I always got tons of consent searches, and I always, there were times I could have legally, lawfully searched somebody, but I still asked for their cooperation and permission because I knew it was going to lead somewhere, and I wanted to bring them in, kind of have them buy in and make them a teammate, you know, with me. So I just kind of talk about that, how we can leverage our skills to have people on the streets be working with us to basically do our jobs at a high level. So that's it. I love it. It's definitely a book that I think young officers should read, because now I just feel we're not training young cops how to really be aggressive in their job, right? We're teaching them how to have a guardian mindset. Critical, absolutely. But part of our job is you still have to go out and do part of that, be progressive, aggressive, proactive. So just kind of touches on how we can still do that in this new era.
The title.
It's the art of the subject stop.
There it is.
Oh, look at that.
What I love is, I don't know, I took some life lessons out of that for what we're doing now too. How to be proactive in your own growth and your transformation, I think is important. And
Yeah.
for me, I kind of put those two in a parallel path. So book's awesome. Highly recommend it. And if you're not connected with Chad on social, you absolutely should. His insights, his things he shares is truly incredible, that we can all continue to learn so much from, especially his leadership philosophies and the stuff he shares through his work from his company. So with that, I want to thank everybody for being here. We're going to wrap up this episode of The Power of Our Story with Chad Bruckner. Chad, thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing your story, for sharing your insights, for sharing life lessons, for talking about gratitude and positive psychology, that your 15 things that help you grow. Like, all those points are so important. And for those that we'll be watching this at a future date and time. Please go back and review Chad's words. They're so inspirational. And Chad, for me, honestly, I talk to my wife about you all the time, not in a creepy way. But got our lunch together. I learned so much from you. You're very insightful. You're very inspiring to me. So I appreciate our time together, and hope to catch up with you soon again.
Yeah, man, we're all help each other. So I appreciate it. I mean, thank you. Thank you for having me on.